Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, dustly, search, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, censors. I'm usually welcome. And I want to talk about Zuckerberg and Meta slash Facebook now dismantling their fact checkers program. And on the surface, it looks like a noble thing, and Zuckerberg is doing the right thing, but we need to back up a little bit because, first of all, Zuckerberg was all on board with censorship. And of course, he comes out now and points out the fact that the Biden administration strong armed him and harassed him about COVID posts and the like. But the fact is, he was on board with it, and he was on board the anti-Trump movement. And this newfound nobility is a fraud. He's just getting with the times. He's just covering his own ass. And the fact is, a lot of things on Meta slash Facebook are still censored, but he's picked out a couple of big ones like COVID and Ukraine and things like that where he's going to allow it. And the other thing that's funny about this story with Zuckerberg, of course, he blames the fact checkers themselves. He says that, he's surprised that they had their own political agenda and that they were zealots and it's all their fault. And of course, a lot of fact checkers have come out and point out the fact that no, this all came down from the top. That's what they were supposed to do. And we have plenty of documentation that shows that Zuckerberg and Facebook and a lot of the other social media were all totally on board with these censorship programs. And that's why they brought the so-called fact checkers on board anyway. And he even came out with a lame story about how he was enlightened because he found one of his own posts when he was in the hospital censored by fact checkers. And so this newfound nobility of his is a total fraud, and he's just covering his ass. And he wants to be in good graces now. Although he did point out that he started to have a lot of admiration for Trump after Trump's behavior during the assassination attempts. And so we've seen a lot of that. And then, of course, Zuckerberg recently went down and met Trump at Mar-a-Lago to hash out a new relationship. And we see a lot of people doing that. And see a lot of people lining up to kiss the ring and get on board because not only was Trump's victory a very resounding and convincing one, but a lot of people see the writing on the wall. And that's another thing we have to remember about Zuckerberg. You know, you could probably go into the details of censorship during the election cycle and find some dirty laundry and possibly legally actionable things could come out. And so once again, there's no nobility on Zuckerberg's part. He's just being practical. But that said, it's a positive move. We still see a lot of social media and companies like Google that are going to continue doing what they're doing, and censorship is still going to be alive and well. But it is at least a step in the right direction for Zuckerberg to make this move, and we're seeing other moves around the world and in the United States that portend the fact that some of the problems with censorship are going to be addressed. And one example of that is the State Department's Disinformation Office, the Global Engagement Center, supposedly to fight disinformation, but it was just a misinformation outlet of its own, is being defunded and is going to close. And then we find the fact that the so-called Global Engagement Center was the definition was to engage foreign disinformation, but of course it was turned internally on the United States as well. That's one of the interesting things about the censorship and disinformation. Basically, they want to make sure there's disinformation and misinformation as long as it's theirs. They don't want it to be anybody else's. They don't want the lies and the misinformation, disinformation of the status narrative to be challenged. So that's what it's all about. But we all know that now. And of course, the worst offenders with disinformation are the government and the media manipulation and the collusion between social media and television media and cable media and the United States and the Biden administration has been the problem all along. So it's going to take a lot to turn around. It's like a giant ship. They're trying to point in the right direction, but it's going to take a long time for something that large to be turned around. And of course, I'm cynical, so I don't see censorship is not going to go away or is not going to be transformed. It's just going to be rebranded. So we're going to have the same levels of censorship, and it will continue. They're just going to call it something else, or they're going to rebrand it, or they're going to reconfigure it. So it's harder to point out. But one of the side stories I think is interesting is Joy Reid, the despicable and horrifying Joy Reid, came out and talked about the fact that why would the conservatives be so nervous about fact checkers if they didn't have lies to hide. But I have to point out the fact that, of course, she's completely oblivious to the fact that it was one-sided. Um, it's all fun and games until the censors turn on you. And wouldn't it be nice if the censors turned on somebody like Joy Reid and the kind of disinformation and lies that her and her cohorts in liberal media have been spouting for years. So that's one of the interesting things to me about censorship and fact checking and the like, as we've seen. There's no fact checking um, of the, although we're seeing a little bit more now, there wasn't much fact checking the last 4, 5, 6 years, as we saw during the so-called Trump-Biden debate or the Kamala Harris, J.D. Vance debate. They fact checked everything Trump said, but they didn't fact check anything that Kamala and Joe said, and that's how it works. So anyway, the bottom line is it's interesting, you know, particularly now we have the liberals. They're all for censorship, as long as the conservatives they hate that are censored. But be careful what you wish for, because we're moving forward now, and it looks like a lot of media is getting fact checked and challenged. And so when it comes back to bite you in the ass, like I say, be careful what you wish for. If you want censorship and it's across the spectrum, you're going to have to pay the price too. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?